Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today I'm answering a specific question that leads me to a lot of other things we're talking about in the next coming weeks. The question we're answering today is, how do I stop feeling so guilty? My answer? Just don't. Okay, bye! Obviously, it's not that easy or you wouldn't be asking me this question, right? But that is going to be my bottom line answer, is you just stop feeling so guilty. There's a lot that goes into this, so let's get started. Guilt itself can be defined as the thing that goes off in our brain that lets us know when our moral boundaries are being breached. So something has happened that is against or in conflict with your moral boundaries. And how you stop feeling that way depends on the kind of guilt that you're experiencing. So there's basically three different kinds of guilt. There's natural guilt. You've wronged either intentionally or unintentionally the relationship with someone for whom you have care. A friend, a family member, a romantic partner, whoever the person is, it is somebody who you care about and you have done something that has wronged them and you feel badly about it. Well, that badly is guilt, natural guilt. There's toxic guilt, and toxic guilt is the guilt that you feel for being who you are. So you feel like you're not a good person or you feel like you're not enough and you feel guilt because of that. In reality, it's guilt because of your existence, and we're going to get to that in a minute. The third type of guilt is existential guilt. This guilt is that inherent guilt that most people feel when dealing with the reality of bad things happening in the world. There's an earthquake or a hurricane. There are children without parents and homes and food in your country, in another country, no matter what it is. It's the guilt you feel over an issue which you have no control over issue-wise, but you feel guilty either because of your position of privilege or because you can't do anything about it and you feel badly about the situation. So based on those three things, the thing that you're feeling guilty about, which category does it fall into? Because that is going to very much inform how you get past the guilt. The way that you get rid of existential guilt is taking action. If there's a situation in the world around you that is really laying some guilt on you and you feel it, you're maybe even to the point of distraction, maybe not, but you feel that. You see a commercial and you feel bad for the animals or people that are in it. Whatever it is that you have that guilt feeling of, look into that and how you can make an impact in that situation, because something about that situation or that cause itself has touched something in your heart. And when something touches something in your heart and stirs your, I want to do something about that, get involved somehow. Most of the time, most things out there, you can do a Google search to figure out how to get involved. For me, I had a great amount of existential guilt about the inaccessibility of counseling, especially once the pandemic hit. But overall, in general, I had that. So what did I do? I started a YouTube channel because that was my way as a therapist to be able to reach other people and to make counseling and these kind of theories accessible, especially when people either can't get to a therapist in their area or maybe can't, afford it at that time. This is a good time to remind everybody that these videos is not counseling. I am a therapist. I am talking to you. These are therapeutic ideas, but this is not therapy. Natural guilt is the guilt that occurs in you that is prompting you to make a relationship right with someone else. Human beings are social creatures. By being social creatures, we are prompted, we are motivated by relationship with others. We're cooperative creatures. We want to live in harmony with each other, and we want people who know us and recognize us and value us, and we want to value them. That is humanity at its core. There's a lot of stuff that's happened that would probably make most of us doubt that at this point, but I'm telling you, humanity at its core, that's who we are, because every test that is out there, every experiment, everything that is out there comes back to the idea that human beings at their core want what's best for each other and want what's best for ourselves, but not always at the expense of each other. So guilt is introduced in order to prompt you to heal those bonds when something has happened. Say you've done something that has wronged someone else. You might not know you did it. You might not believe it was something that wronged them either. But oftentimes you're going to feel guilt over it. What you do with that guilt is your call, because the situation very, very much has to weigh in on what you do with it. If you feel guilty for setting boundaries with someone who has disrespected you or wronged you or has no interest in honoring your boundaries and your values, Well, maybe that guilt is there and you recognize that it's because you want to be in that cooperative relationship, but maybe not that person, right? Maybe you pick somebody else to be in a cooperative relationship with. Maybe you learn for yourself where your boundaries are, where your lines are, who you want in your life and who you don't want in your life, and then you follow that. While the instinct of the guilt is to repair a relationship, it doesn't always have to. And in fact, I would advocate it shouldn't always be used to repair a relationship because not every relationship should be repaired. So then we've got toxic guilt, and this is where things get really complicated. Toxic guilt is insidious in a lot of ways because it can appear like existential guilt or like natural guilt. And in reality, when it's used in a way to motivate you in a way that you shouldn't be motivated or maybe don't want to be motivated or tricks you into motivating you in a certain way, that's toxic. Also, feeling like you have to apologize for being yourself. Feeling like you can't take up the space that you take up in a room, emotionally or physically. Feeling like you have to apologize to people in your family because you've let them down and not turned out the way that they wanted you to. Feeling like you have to apologize for your sexuality or your gender identity. All of those are toxic guilt. The guilt is a bit misplaced. It's prompting you to be in relationship and cooperation with other people. True, and that's the function of it. But the other people are not interested in being in cooperation with you. They're ignoring their instinct to be in cooperation and to be in community with you, and instead listening to their own individual set of morals and their own understanding of what's right and wrong and trying to force you back into that. You don't need to do that. You do not need to have people in your life that do not respect you as a person or that encourage you to not respect yourself as a person. Everybody who is in your life on a relational level should be helping to challenge you to be a better version of who you are, and you should be doing the same for others. Toxic guilt gets really destructive when it's used by another entity, a political party, a government, a religious institution, which coincidentally is next week's video. So be sure to tune in for that. We're talking about religion and guilt and the way that sort of plays itself out in our lives. The idea that you have anything to feel guilty about because of who you are is a message from society that your behavior, your function, your existence as a whole doesn't match the majority, and the majority becomes uncomfortable with it. So society attempts to force us back into those umbrellas so that nobody has to be too taxed to figure out who we are. Well, you know what? Screw society. This is Midnight. And she's just going to make an appearance in this video because we're just going to keep going. Society is trying to make you somebody you're not. Well, you don't have to listen to it. The idea that we all need to be the same and that the mold that is made for everyone is also going to fit us is absolutely ridiculous. We have advanced way too much as a society to actually entertain that idea while we are, trying to figure ourselves out too. You don't owe it to anybody to be anything other than who you are. If someone attempts to make you feel that way, you might want to rethink your relationship with them. So the question still remains, how do we stop feeling so guilty? Number one, you have to be aware of the function of the guilt. You need to be able to put it into one of these categories and understand what the function of holding on to it is. Is it helping you to be better? Is it habitual? Is it something in between? Whatever it is, you need to be aware of what it is. And then you need to decide what you want to do about it. Look into your future. What do you want? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And figure out if that guilt is prompting you to be that person or if that guilt is keeping you from being that person. And if it's keeping you from it, it is a conscious, regular decision to alter your thinking. You do have control over your thoughts. It's hard, but you do. And this is the way you do that. Instinctual, habitual thoughts aren't going to go away by themselves. If you have a thought of guilt,
I'm so this, I'm so that,
I should have this.
Those things that are associated with this thing that we're talking about, whatever that is. You ask yourselves those questions. What is the function of it? And is it helping me to be a better person? If the answer is no, it is not helping me to be a better person, can you get that function answered another way? Is it a function you need in your life? Once you have answered those two questions, and if your answer is no, it is not helping me to be a better person, then you remind yourself that you don't have to carry that guilt. And then you let it go. Turn your brain to something else. Next time it comes up, do the same thing. I do not have to hold on to this. This is not my burden to carry. Switch your brain to something else. The more you do that, the more you are going to be able to be free of that kind of toxic guilt that's keeping you back. Now, as I said, next week I'm going to talk about religion and guilt. In prepping for that, I really encourage you to check out the religion and power video that is on this channel in order to sort of get some of the backstory, so I won't spend as much time explaining that next time. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week for religion and guilt, and until then, take care of yourselves and each other.